Hi there, and we're live. It's I named this I'm going through the seminar. It's a 3 DVD seminar, about 8 hours intensive. It's called Synchrodestiny seminar with Deepak Chopra. Taking some notes intensely. I've been through it a few other times, but this time I'm really taking notes and going through it very particularly and purposeful, and meaningful. DVD number two. I just want to give you some highlights of my notes. Um, Talks about how our infinite, how our um, how our intentions have infinite organizing power. I know Wayne Dyer talks about that in Power of Intention with in his book, but in this particular part of the seminar, it's called Infinite Organizing Power, and I just wanted to share with you some of the highlights that I wrote down. Again, I'll share with you from DVD number one and number three later on some other time. But right now, I just want to share with you number two, the highlights. Okay. Um, Deepak Chopra starts off with this quote. Actually, he's wearing this shirt, and it's really cool. It says, it has like a bright circle there, and it says Atma. Atma in Sanskrit means soul, something that can never be born and never dies. It's eternal, infinite, and immortal. And under the Atma, it says, quote, I want to know the thoughts of God. The rest are details. That's for a quote from Albert Einstein, who was born in 1879 and won the Nobel Prize Award in 1921. We'll probably watch the A&E biography later on tonight. Um, and he rode around. He didn't have a car. He rode around the city in his bicycle, and he was most known for his formula about relativity. But a lot of other people don't know about Einstein is he was inspired by Vedanta and the Vedas and the Upanishads. The one formula he was most inspired by was infinity divided by infinity equals infinity. So I didn't know that. That's really interesting. That's really cool. That he was inspired by the Eastern philosophies and Vedanta. I had no idea. And again, Einstein resided and was a well-known German scientist. So, and then talks about Buddhism, just a brief, basic understanding of Buddhism, and talks a little bit about enlightenment. I wrote under enlightenment here. It said there's four noble truths from Buddhism, and then there's the Eightfold Path. And one of the fold paths is it's called right view. And the key to enlightenment there is I wrote this note down that's very profound and very powerful if you really ponder it and contemplate it. It says, you are a universal being pretending to be a person. Wow. It's like it's like we're not an average human being like having a once in a while spiritual experience. It's the other way around where a spiritual being having an occasional human experiences. It's the other way around. And the way that Deepak Chopra phrased it in the seminar was like he said you're a universal being pretending to be a person. So it's like I'm a universal being and I'm pretending to be Jai Pathak. I'm in disguise, actually. I'm just a piece of God's consciousness disguised in this body. That's Jai Pathak, but I'm not really here. I'm pretending to be, but I'm actually a universal being in disguise as a person. Wow. It talks about enlightenment. Think about that for a bit. Again, these are my highlighted notes. If you were to go through the summary, you might have different notes than I do, but these are the ones that I found that were helpful and useful for me, and I want to share with you. Next is talks about freedom and how there's different levels of freedom. And the ultimate freedom is free from pain and suffering, and free from worldly bondage and possessions and all emotions. He said, David Simon or Deepak said that most emotions actually are all from the ego. So there's only a few emotions from the spirit, like I think like joy and love and bliss, perhaps gratitude, but all the rest are from ego based. So it just shows how much we live in our ego based self rather than our higher self, the spirit. Makes you think about things. So it says liberation of freedom. And when you have that experience of liberation of freedom, you experience immortality. And then he talked about experience about Ramakrishna, how Ramakrishna was doing his daily practice of meditation and prayer, and then all of a sudden he had a shift in consciousness. And wherever you looked, he had God consciousness. If you looked at the wall, you saw God. If you looked at the flower on the blade of grass, you saw God. And he was so ecstatic that the story says that he danced for 48 hours in a row, completely ecstatic, and then he just passed out. And then after that, he was never the same again, and he had God consciousness for the rest of his life and forever. Again, there's a poem inspired by Vedanta. Einstein was inspired by a Vedanta poem in Sanskrit. It says, so he must have understood the language of Sanskrit, Einstein. Sanskrit, again, being one of the most ancient languages in history. Aji, my grandma used to read the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit. If you divide infinity by infinity, it equals infinity. That's the formula in the poem, basically. And then he talks about the power of using mantras. There's about 108. Each person has their own individual mantra that they should say internally during the day or night. And then also there's sutras, statements that you should say to yourself when you're not feeling centered throughout the day. It's almost like an affirmation, although it's more powerful than an affirmation because these sutras um, are thousands and thousands of years old, and these sutras are particularly picked by yogis and rishis, and they don't even want to take credit for their names of being the discoverers. They you see them in, picking out these sutras, but you never know who really they are. They don't like to be named, and they don't want any recognition whatsoever. So sutra equals a statement in consciousness going back to yourself. So the more you say sutras to yourself and the more you say your mantra, the more you're going to experience synchrodestiny. And then it talks about being receptive to the universal domain. And it goes over a few of the sutras. So far in seminar DVD 2, it talks about Aham Brahmasmi, and that means I am. That means I am that I am. That is the most powerful and first words of the creation. Almost it's from like Om, Amen, Abraham. It's sutra is a reminder. It's a shift in awareness. A sutra is a reminder of your true identity. That's the one I wrote, and it says that there's two intentions. There's a first intention and a second intention. And a novel book by Deepak Chopra that wrote a book based on the second intention is called Daughters of Joy. So you might want to go out and pick that book up or read it. Next on, he goes on and talks about he's saying to get maximum benefit and results from the seminar Syncrodestiny. He says you need a combination of both experience, but plus you need knowledge. Knowledge equals power. So you need experience and the knowledge. And then it talks about the different consciousness. He briefly talked about plants and how plants are life oriented, and um, plants always move in the direction of light, and they also have a vibration and energy. They're constantly growing, and they respond. Cosmic consciousness leads to God consciousness, and then God consciousness is um, unites with unity consciousness. And then also a prerequisite of getting the Syncrodestiny seminar to its fullest is I gotta maximize this. Um, Deepak Chopra recommends again meditation twice daily for a minimum of 20 minutes. That's just to get the cycle rolling with um, with the seminar on Synchrodestiny to get the most out of the sutras and mantras. He says you have to meditate twice a day, 20 minutes, morning and night. So I gotta get going on that. Here's some sutra practices. Read the statements. It says there's a statement, and aham brahmasmi means I am, but it also means basically I am the universe. And it means the universe exists within me. I am the universe, but the universe exists within me. That's what Ayurveda says, and all the spiritual traditions really say. And then it also says, I am the source of all reality. That means basically I create my life, or the manifestor of our destiny and our creation. So that powerful sutra number one, Aham Brahmasmi, you want to be repeating that daily yourself. Then it talks about visualization and images in our consciousness. It says the images in your consciousness moves towards that. So again, the power of visualization. Many athletes, basketball players know that. Again, when you visualize your outcome, your end result, you move towards that goal. So you always want to be picturing your goals and visualizing them and imaging them in your mind. And then Dr. David Simon had a section on it's called harnessing emotional turbulence, and he just went over. There's a there's a few notes I took. Um, One quote is imagine that you're eternal. The other one is the whole universe exists within you. The other one is you're connected to everything. And another one that's very important is we make decisions and choices out of feelings of comfort or discomfort. And it talks about the importance of communication also. Emotions, ego in Sanskrit, I learned this, it means the word is called ahankara. And again, it talks about how most of us live in our ego based self throughout our whole lives and lifetimes. So we have to break out of the ego, lower self, and somehow merge or embrace the higher self, and live based in spirit instead. And from shifting from the ego to the soul is a shifting consciousness. Just like the Ramana Krishna, you're practicing your rituals and daily practices for days, months, and years, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have that shifting consciousness, and you're doing the same again. You're dancing for 48 hours, and then you have God consciousness. Talks about how to. He talked about briefly again. This is a practice. I mean, it just doesn't happen once sitting in a seminar. You learn it. It takes daily practice and repetition over a period of months and years. So I'm just giving you the knowledge, but actually the practice and the experience that will come with time. Dealing with primary pain talks about um, if you feel hurt or pain, it's either number one, your needs are not met or your boundaries are crossed. You want to have positive responses to the pain if possible. One is called restful awareness. Two is intuitive. Three is creative. You want to do something different. And then David Simon gave the 7-step process for emotional freedom. One, he says, take responsibility for your feelings. Number two is tune into the sensations in your body. Three is identify the emotions. Number four is express the turbulence. Number five is release the tension. Number six is share the experience. Seven is you want to celebrate. So that's the 7 steps. Next is going on to the sutra number 2, which is Sat Chit Ananda, means truth. Sat means truth. Chit means consciousness, and Ananda means total, complete fulfillment. So it means basically infinite bliss consciousness. And it says, I'm not above anyone else. I'm not lower than anyone else. It says, I am equal to all. Then it talks about inner dialogue and self-referred behavior. It talks about the qualities of fearlessness, and you want to be in detachment and let your anchors be with your sutras. And that completes the highlights from seminar DVD number 2. And then I'm going to move on to continue on with the sutras. Sutra number 3 is Sankalpa. And it talks about by experiencing gratitude and let go of all grievances, you get the ego out of the way. I like some good affirmations and quotes are, I let go of all grievances and I choose miracles. That might be from Course in Miracles. Intentions produces synchronistic behavior. So you want to first get the ego out of the way by experiencing gratitude and letting go of all grievances. You get the ego out of the way, and then you bring spirit in by affirming every decision I make gives a choice between grievances or miracles. And you say, I choose miracles. And you want to have the clarity and the intention of creating that. And that concludes the seminar highlights and notes. Until next time, namaste.